Welcome. Always great to be here at the Agile Tour London. Excellent conference, really very valuable talk so far. Thank you very much for the presenters so far. And thank you to all of you for coming out here. I have a very hot issue with me, DevOps. When you say DevOps, everybody opens their eyes very wide. Wow. And expect me to give the silver bullet. But wait. So this is, wait a minute. No. It's me. I'm a business agility consultant and trainer at the brand in 2021, together with Angel Medinilla, quite well known coach. We both work in Europe and Latin America, coaching and supporting companies. And I come from the telecommunication sector. I've been 22 years working for Ericsson in Germany. I was born in Spain. You might notice a tiny little accent in English. Went to school in the States and ended up in Germany. So like life is. So my background is very mixed up, very multicultural, and strongly technical for the telecommunications world. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. We have customers in any sector, even if I come from the telecommunications, we do have customers in the retailing, in the vending sector, banks, insurance. And we have different services what we give our customers. We give training, we give awareness talks like this one. We have transformation projects for agility. So we have several services, whatever the customer needs. We are Management 3.0 trainers, something we very much support. I find that an excellent way of introducing Agile management in the companies. And we are a silver partner for Scale Agile framework. Now, let's go back to our subject, DevOps. First question is, what the heck is DevOps? Whatever definition you might have, you are not wrong. Because there is not an official definition of DevOps. There are several tries to do that. We do have a definition for agility. We have the Agile Manifesto, putting at least some foundations. In DevOps, there is as much as you might want, and you are not wrong. So this is quite a problem, actually, because everybody is talking about it, and everybody needs something else. And my favorite definition, the one I'm going to give you, is the one for the tool version 1. But please, if you don't like it, take another one. That's the one I like. Includes communication, collaboration, and integration, not only automation. And that's something I really like about it. And that's the factors I'm going to be talking about. So when we created the Scrum, which is an excellent framework, and we had the work coming in from the product backlog, and we had these roles defined, we had our Scrum Master, we have our product owner, and we have our Agile team, and everything seems beautifully, and here we have our product, but Scrum forgot to define the operator. So it really much assumes that as soon as the product gets out of this of the sprint, it goes straight to the customer. And for the majority of the companies we work with, and for the majority of the companies I know, that's not the case. So what we did so far with Scrum and Kanban and with our Agile approaches, and that's something which has been coming up throughout the day today in several talks, is that we did some agilization of the waterfall. So we have managed to create really excellent slots here where we had very quick, best quality, quick delivery of value, and then it took as long as ever. We do also have the problem at the beginning of the waterfall, that is the Agile product management. That's another issue. So we still have an issue here, and no framework looked at it at the beginning. So now what we're heading for, what we're trying to do with DevOps, is that we still have our interactions with excellent quality of working code, but we also take care of the environment where it's going to run. So it's just not finishing the code by the developer and putting it out of the door. We need to secure the environment for the operations. In a Scale Agile framework, they have a strongly, as this is thought for big organization implemented an Agile organization, there's a strongly thought on DevOps and continuous delivery pipeline. So we have strongly introduced all this concept in the DNA of the framework. That's something I personally really like, because you cannot create an Agile organization without having a DevOps basic, DevOps fundamentals. This continuous delivery pipeline, if we take a closer look, very much differ for each sector. We do have continuous design, continuous integration for the majority of the companies, and then when we get in continuous delivery, continuous deployment, continuous release, things begin to differ. I mean, if you own your product like Amazon does, like Spotify, you might deploy 3 times a minute because it's your own product. But if you're bringing it to your customer, and if this customer, like in the telecommunication, is a network operator which has a network which might be working countrywide and a few thousand people talking at the same time, he might not want continuous release. So there are several staging pre-production and production steps which you might apply. Now, in any of these steps, what is really crucial, and we will come back to this, is the level of co-creation that we have. So in this case, this applies for the company Ericsson, but it's for most of the high complexity sector where you might have pre-production or production depending on your customer. You do need all this feedback to have a continuous improvement loop. So that is what this continuous delivery pipeline is about, also continuous feedback. Whatever you find out in pre-production and production, that this information moves up to the design. Now, how continuous is continuous? Let's see the press release from Ericsson 1 year ago regarding continuous deployment. It says that they were able, in Packet Core, which is one of the big products they have, they were able to do software upgrades monthly instead every 6 months or every year even. Well, I mean, fundamentalists would say that's not continuous. Surely it's not continuous. Surely Amazon is doing this every minute or every second. But for putting into operation in a huge telecommunication network, England-wide or Europe-wide, that is quite good actually. And it's a step in the right direction, so we're heading for the right direction. Maybe it will be by now every 2 weeks. So it's not about how continuous you are completely continuous, it's what are you heading for? At Modena, we have dropped from 6 months to 3 months. Excellent. Can you go for monthly releases? So it is about going in the right direction, not about being fundamentalist about DevOps. Now, companies like Ericsson are going one step forward. In the 5G, which is now being prepared, and it's the next generation of communications going up with the Internet of Things, we talk about continuous everything, which is really ambitious. What we have here now is virtualization, and virtualization has changed the rule of the game. We used to have like one server where we did our development, and then in this physical server we took the software to the other physical server of the operators, where some expert had prepared some scripts, and both machines were being run by different people, and oh wonder, the software would work in one machine, didn't work in the other. So what we have now through virtualization, like using containers, we can actually, or like VMware, we can replicate the environments and create virtual machines so that each and every developer can get a pretty operational environment. So thanks to the virtualization, we have made a huge step ahead. I would say it is an accelerator for DevOps. So what do we have to do for DevOps? I would say first the step is automation, which sounds actually like common sense. Well, it's not. 2 days ago, actually last Tuesday, I was holding a keynote at the Automation Testing Conference in Paris, and another colleague, Stefan Schutz, had this slide. If you see that the majority of the companies have less than 20% automation, it's that little automation. So we cannot even start talking about DevOps if we don't have any automation. Automation is not an option. I do have companies I talk to where they say, well, you know, no, we are not doing automation because we have no budget. Say, it's not an option. It's really not an option. So let's go for tooling for automation. Tools, yes, as many as you want, and probably a few missing. And surely a few missing. I'm waiting for, at some point when I use these slides, that somebody come back and said, my tool is missing. If your tool is missing, please let me know, I put it in. And you also have on top orchestration tools. No? You might have one tool which puts you 5 of them together. So again, that's not an option, that's not an excuse not to automate. And even some of them are open source. Like Git is open source. Jenkins is open source. So what's the excuse not to automate? Well, once we get this in place, there's still something missing. This is something Elon Musk published some time ago. And as much as we automate, there's still one more factor. It's the human factor. Let's take a closer look at that. Let's assume we have the telecommunication operators and the providers. You have their very different scenarios. You might have operation as a service from a provider, which is personally bringing their people to the operator's pre-production or to the operator's production. And they help the operator to put the whole thing, to get it up and running, to release. I mean, we're talking in ongoing traffic of calls. There are some operators. We had one Latin American operator only wanted to work with one certain guy. He wanted this one guy to come, and nobody else. So it got that personnel to put into operation for them. And we support our operators not only with the software, also with the architecture. So it's not just putting the software into production. You might have to do some architectural changes to your network. So any new release software or every new release telecommunication node might require some changes to the complete structure. So it's not just putting into operation. You might also have the integration and verification labs, because some operators would like to first see the software in the labs of the provider before it even comes to their own labs. So you might have the pre-production environment here, or you might have operators who don't have a pre-production environment and they use the one from the provider. So there's a very close communication here. You also have the upgrades. Upgrade is an existing software which gets a better version. Well, it can be done by the people who know this best. It can be done by the operator themselves. They might require support from the provider. So there are several options here about how is this supported. You might even have developers traveling to the network operator and helping them to put into production or to release a product. This might happen when you have certain issues which have to be modified for a concrete operator, like for example a data migration issue where some code has to be adapted. And you might even have a developer traveling there personally to the premises of the operator and supporting the operator there. So we have seen here several combinations of human interaction. All these combinations bring a lot of feedback. Alistair Cockburn, one of the IAM Manifesto guys, an excellent agilist, he talks about manual delivery. Not because you couldn't bring your software to the customer with one click, not because by bringing your software personally to your customer, you sit with him, you see how he's using it, you hear his comments, you hear him bitching around something he doesn't like. So by having a manual delivery, even if it would be possible to do it automatically, you can have some empathy to the way your operators work with your software, okay? And listen to him closely when he's trying to put it into production and see what his problems are, his pain points. All this feedback we get, the higher we get to closer to operation, the more important is the continuous need of information we need for the fast deployment. Because it's all about delighting our customers. That is the basis of agility and also for DevOps. So all these operations scenarios I described, and there are many more different ops, we have to secure that it doesn't look like this. It's a beautiful picture from the book, This is Lean. It is about making sure there is a strong collaboration where everybody related to operations work close to each other and consider what's best for my customer now, what's best for this customer. We have a continuous deployment pipeline and now we have to release it to our customer. What's best for him? So people for integration and verification travel there, or should be done by ops as a service? or submitted by a developer because there is some requirement that the operator requires to adapt the software. So we have to make sure that we don't have this scenario. So what do we have to do? What are the steps required to have a sound DevOps environment? Number one, and that is also number one in priority, break the silos. Break the silos. Secure that it's not just development, throwing over the wall the software, bouncing it here, and then the other guys bouncing it onto the user. And if something goes wrong, everybody points it to each other. It was not my fault. It was working in my environment. It says, it was working in my machine. Yeah, it's not working in mine. Yeah, it's your fault. So we used to have complete different departments for development and for testing. Once upon a time where agility didn't exist yet. And the communication went over travel reports, over electronic tickets. People were collocated in different buildings close to each other. Still the communication went over tickets. It's wrong, no it's not. So avoid the situation, break the silos. Secure that the people have common goals. It happened in a company once, and that's not a joke, that the department for development had the goal to have as little defects as possible. This was a KPI. And the department for testing had the goal to find as many mistakes as possible. It was also a KPI. Both KPIs were tied to the bonus. It's not a joke. This happened. Can't you imagine what this was like? The trouble was bouncing back and forth. Was your fault? No, it was not fault. It was your test was wrong. So at some point, the department managers of both departments did something completely revolutionary. They talked to each other. And they came up with the idea that maybe we should have common goals. So secure that development, testing, operations, integration, verification, whatever your continuous pipeline is like, I mean the telecommunication is quite a long one, I mean you have so many different tests, regression tests going on until you put something into production. Secure that the complete pipeline has common goals, that everybody has the only goal to make our customer happy with best quality in the shortest time possible. And everybody works in this direction. We have secured cross-functionality when it came to Scrum teams. Cross-functionality is a very hot issue, and where I keep pushing all my customers, how cross-functional are you? Do you have development doing some testing? Do you have testers doing some development? No, they don't wanna. Say again. How can we nurture this culture? How can we secure that we can get in this direction? And that's what was Scrum for. I mean, it was not only about sitting together, it was about sharing, going for a common understanding, supporting each other, and creating a cross-functionality. So when we talk about cross-functionality, make sure the Ops guys is also in the party. So include the Ops guys in the Scrum teams, or Agile teams, or Kanban teams, or whatever you want to call them. But secure the guys from operation. When there is a barbecue, they're invited. Secure they are part of the whole game, and they are part of these cross-functional teams. Can somebody support the operation guy? Can somebody travel with him to the customer? Can somebody tell him? No, it's not my turf. Who cares? We have common goals to make the customer happy, to delight him with the best quality. Everybody familiar with the T-shape concept? Hands up so I don't say too much. Oh my goodness. So try to make sure, I see some faces looking a bit unhappy, so I very shortly introduce it. It's about developing skills in a way that you might have one thing where you are an expert in. So you have your expertise. In my case right now, it is agility consultancy and training. And you might have a team, you might have areas where you have some knowledge. I am a developer, so I was so many years developing, I can still do some code if you ask me. And you could maybe hire me as a developer still. And I'm a tester, a very junior tester, don't hire me. But if I'm a Scrum team and there's some test activity which have to be done, or we don't meet the sprint, I could jump in and say, what is the easiest one? This one, don't give it to me, I cannot screw it up. And I did several testing, I was running Jenkins, I was working on JCAT, minimum strength, but I could support the testing so that we could finish the user stories on time, and that's what it's about. So secure, nurture the cross-functionality and the TC. Make a big campaign for TC. Try to motivate the people. You might have some people who say, I don't want to. I am this specialist, and that's it. Okay, but you might have half of the company or half of the teams will say, oh yeah, well, let's give it a try. For example, the company Rede Digital in Cologne, they have communities of practice running like Jenkins talks, easy talks for developers to get a flavor. Or they have small experiments of testing which are oriented to the developers, not for the testers. Not to secure that the developers get a flavor, get some interest, so attract the developers for testing. Depending which sector we're talking about, you have sectors where you have, for each line of code, a huge amount of tests. So testing is a very hot issue, and there's very often the need that developers have some knowledge of it. So there are companies who are really working on it with the communities of practice to how could we nurture this issue. What we want to reach is, looking at the Spotify diagram, that we get our teams in this area with the operators on board, that they are aligned, that in between, within the team, they're mature, they know what they have and what they don't have, what are their skills, where can they collaborate, and that they're autonomous. That they say, guys, secure that this product gets to the customer with best quality, on time, and delight the customer. And that they take care that this happens. Who travels to the customers? As we saw in the example of the scenarios I described from Ericsson. Who cares? Making the customer is happy. But why should the developer travel to do the release? Who cares? Is that what the customer needs? And that's what's going to happen. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Torbjörn Rick's iceberg. Yeah, that is some, I really like it because it's really a flavor of what you see in many companies. Like when I coach a company and I walk through the door and you smell the culture, smell the atmosphere. And the first thing you see is the way they say things happen. No, you listen to the mission and to the policies and the goals and the strategy which is defined. And you spend some more time there and you spend some time in the coffee corner. And then comes the way we get things done. No? So then you hear the beliefs, the unwritten rules, the traditions, the things everybody knows but nobody mentions, the fears, which are documented nowhere, but they are in the air floating. This is tacit communication. Yeah? And you smell it and you notice the difference between both of them. So if we want to really go DevOps, we very much have to go under the surface of this iceberg. No? It is not only, it's a mindset. DevOps is a mindset. It's automation, surely. Don't even try it without. But it's a lot about the mindset. What keeps us away from collaborating? Because keep us, the KPIs and the bonus tied to it. It's like, great. No? So maybe let's start there and not trying to create cross-functionality. Because as long as we have the bonus of different departments, nobody's going to want to be cross-functional. As long as the hiring department, and I hear this, HR department is hiring people for being the best specialists, and say, we don't need expert. Okay, we do need somebody who knows a lot about C++, but he might have some social skills, he might have some conflict handling knowledge, he might also have some testing knowledge. No, he's the best C++ guy I've ever seen. Say, yeah, but that's the only thing he can do, nothing else. And that's changing. I think that's really changing. I go into companies where I see now completely different profiles. And that's something also would belong to DevOps. We have to start with the human resources department, hiring people with different perspectives. I was working at a retailing company where they had a philosopher, they had a lady who was a sociologist. We had completely different perspective inside, and it really is an enrichment for the company. So we have to start working here. I finish my talks, so we have also a lot of time for questions. Always with this Twitter from Jeff Hamel, one of the authors of the DevOps Handbook, and I really love it because If you think of the person whose role you dislike most, the person who's always bothering you, whenever you write some code, he makes a trouble report on it. If you take this one person and you go for lunch with him and really actively listen to this person, you might have solved some of the problems. There's one thing we cannot forget, is whenever it looks like a technical problem, whenever we think we have a technical issue, it's always a human problem behind. So I would highly recommend when you go home that your model in your company is secure, that the developers and the operators go together for lunch and see how the things will change. Thank you very much. That was my talk.